everybody. For a guy that has such a crazy following in terms of people that support him, it is unreal how few people actually pay to watch him fight.
There is a plan on the table that has been discussed to do 3 champion versus champion fights on that pay-per-view. You versus Stipe, DJ versus TJ, and Cyborg versus Nunes. Do you like this idea, or do you think that's too much to, sort of separate fighter, from analyst for a second, be the analyst, be the fan? Do you think that's tying up 6 divisions? Is that tricky, or is that kind of our version of, the Super Bowl, WrestleMania? Why the hell not? Laissez le bon temps rouler, as they say back home.
Yeah, man, let the good times roll, I think it's okay because here's the deal, right? Out of those 6 champions, 5 of those weight classes don't necessarily have a true clear-cut person that the champions should be fighting, right? Like, who's Stipe supposed to fight next if they weren't willing to give Kane a title shot right away? Who am I supposed to fight next unless I just go into a rematch with Alexander? Who is Cyborg supposed to be fighting? With the whole – nobody knows what's going on with Megan Anderson. Who's Amanda supposed to fight next? I guess Raquel Pennington is, injured or something.
Yeah.
5 of these champions don't have clear-cut number 1 contenders. So what's the issue? While we're doing these fights, why you put all these title fights on the same card, then you let the divisions kind of sort themselves out. So when we're done in July, come the end of the year, a new contender has truly shown themselves. Because Alexander, for as deserving as he is, he's won 2 fights. And he looked pretty good against Glover. But, Glover's a little bit slow, so he's going to look good against Glover. And against Jan Blachowicz, he was getting pieced up and had to start wrestling. Jan Blachowicz. He had to wrestle Jan Blachowicz.
Okay. How much do you expect to weigh on July 7th? I know it's early, but how much do you expect to weigh?
235, maybe.
Okay, wow. What a gift that's going to be, right?
I feel like at my best. What'd you say?
What a gift that's going to be, right?
Oh, it's going to be great to not cut weight. It's going to be amazing. But at my best, I was 235. When I fought Josh Barnett, I weighed 235. Anything smaller would be a problem because Stipe is a big, strong guy. But at 235, he'll probably weigh about 10 pounds more than I do.
Are you able to tell us who your coaching staff will be on Tough or not yet?
I think it's easy to figure out with me. I have the same guys. I'm just going to take my coaching staff.
Okay.
I'm going to take my coaching staff to go and help me coach these kids. I'm going to give them the opportunity to learn from the same staff that helped me and Kane and Luke become world champions.
You have a relationship with Stipe. You just filmed a show with him not that long ago, In the Clinch. Fantastic program on FS1. Is it weird to be fighting a guy that you're buddies with, that you're kind of, you're cool with, you have respect for? You just spent the day with him at the firehouse. How do you feel about that?
I think it's cool, It's going to be a respectful build to the fight. This one's based on competition and nothing more. This is based on my dream of doing something special and doing something unheard of. I have nothing against Stipe. I think he's a fantastic guy. I think he's a phenomenal father, husband, integral part of his community. But this is an opportunity to do something truly, truly special, and I can't pass it up.
2 more. If you win on July 7th, are you the greatest ever?
I win this fight July 7th, I'm the greatest fighter of all time. I've done something that was unheard of, and that's what I've always chased, right? I've always chased it. I chased it in the fights with Jones, because even regardless of the belt, I would always say, once I beat Jones, I will be the greatest fighter of all time. So I believe that once I do this, I think something that was so crazy that no one even has attempted it, I feel like I'm in the conversation for the best fighter of all time.
I certainly agree with that. Now the big one, the one I've been dying to ask you, what did you think of Ronda Rousey's debut Sunday night at the Royal Rumble?
I thought it was cool.
Give me the breakdown.
It was cool, So, I sat through the whole entire Royal Rumble, right? The Women's Rumble, hoping that she was one of the fighters. And number 30 came, and it was Trish Stratus, which was pretty cool. But it wasn't Ronda, so I was like, oh, my goodness, they did this to us. And then it was cool to see her walk to the ring and point to the WrestleMania logo. don't truly understand the meaning of it. Like, she doesn't really have a rivalry with any of those people. Maybe it was just to get her out in front of the crowd, see the reaction. But I'm interested to see what becomes of this, because I don't know. Maybe she just wasn't ready yet to go into the Royal Rumble, right? Because if they would have rushed her and she looked bad, it would have been much worse than just kind of holding her back, giving her months to prepare to make her debut. But, yeah, very excited. Happy for Ronda. So happy for Ronda that she's doing something she loves.
I have to ask, though, like, the reaction from the MMA fans, they don't seem to be all that excited for her. Like, you say you're happy for her, and she seemed genuinely happy. I'm concerned about her acting skills. I'm concerned about her mic skills. That's her issue now. She has to figure it out. Personally, I think she should team up with Paul Heyman, and he should be her mouthpiece. So that's neither here nor there. But do you feel like the fans maybe feel like she turned her back to them? She never said goodbye properly. She never addressed the losses. She won't address the losses. And unlike you and Connor and other people who have suffered great defeats, you dust yourself off, you talk, there seems to be a disconnect now. They don't feel like she's one of them going off to do great things. And I find it fascinating when talking to someone like you, who's always sort of been, open with his setbacks like he is with his triumphs. There's something missing there. Do you sense that as well, that the fans just aren't happy for her like maybe they should be?
I mean, I think it's weird, because like she chooses not to discuss it. That's her right, like people deal with loss in their own ways, and obviously Ronda doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't want to deal with it in the way that we did. People deal with it differently. Would it be, if she was to do it? It's a massive weight off your chest if you're able and willing to discuss it and try to move past it. But what does she have to move past now? She's not in the sport anymore, and she's getting paid millions of dollars to do something else. I mean, look, they can love her, they can hate her. It ain't going to change her paycheck, and she's going to be Ronda Rousey. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I think she's going to approach this in the way that she wants to approach it, and obviously she has made it pretty clear that she won't discuss those losses or discuss those setbacks.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. DC, you're the man. I can't thank you enough. I promise. I don't even know if I can promise I won't bother you again, because you continue to be in the news. You are, a perpetual newsmaker in this business. But I think I will leave you alone for at least a few weeks. Good luck out there. It starts this week, right?
It starts this week. We leave tomorrow. I'm taking off. This is it. I'm taking a couple weeks off of the MMA Hour.
Wow.
I'm out.
Now I feel like you're mad at me. Now I'm going to be all self-conscious about it.
I'm not mad at all. I'm not mad at all, man. It's been great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. Good luck on the show and, of course, training. I have a feeling I'll talk to you before the fight on July 7th. But congratulations and best of luck to you out in Vegas.
Thank you, Ariel. I appreciate it.
All right. There he is. The light heavyweight champion of the world, Daniel Cormier, the man who will look to make history on July 7th, day before my 36th birthday, by the way. You don't care about that. When he fights Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. Only one man has ever held two belts at the same time. You know that man, Conor McGregor. 4 men have held 2 belts at different times in different weight classes. DC's trying to become the biggest man to ever do it. 205 heavyweight, July 7th. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. We'll talk about it with Stipe Miocic later on in the program. But now let us move along and welcome in one of the best fighters in the lightweight division, a man who is very much in the mix at 155, a man who has been in the news over the past week. And we'll get into that in a second. We'll talk to him as to why he's been in the news and where does he go from here. We're talking to the Underground King. We're talking to the most violent man in the UFC. We're talking to the one and only Eddie Alvarez right now. Eddie, how are you?
I'm excellent. What's up, Ariel?
All is well. I appreciate the time, Eddie. There's much to discuss with you. You sort of popped up midweek last week. Nate Diaz, a guy you've had your sort of run-ins with, tweets out that he's ready to come back. He's tired. He's bored. He's coming back May, June. You come back and say, "All right, May, June sounds good. Let's go." And then there's some more tweets there. Why is this of interest to you right now? Why did you respond to him? Where's your head at as it pertains to Nate Diaz?
None. I just thought it'd be a good fight. Nate, the Diaz name in general would be like it'd be one I'd like to have in my Sherdog record, have a win over that name. I like, during my career, collecting names it's an important thing. Some people got me. I've gotten most, but just having that name on my resume it'd be a real honor. So when he said something, I just thought it was like it was the equivalent of a guy like calling out a bunch of, there's a bunch of fighters in a group, and then some tough guy yells out, "You're all a bunch of bitches," and then walks away. So like he had to expect at least one guy to turn around and say something. And when you say that, you kind of got to be ready to fight someone or at least one of the guys that you called out. That was my thinking. Like we are all called a bunch of bitches, and then the guy just walks away, and he don't say shit. It was really odd. I had a tough time like understanding why he would even say anything. I'm like, why would you say nothing if you're not willing to fight anybody? So that's why I started. I tweeted again. Like I kind of understood. Like this guy just wants to fight one guy. So if you just want to fight one guy, just like kind of talk to that one guy. Don't yell at a group of guys.
So you believe he has no interest in fighting any of you, whether it's you, Kevin Lee, who also said I'd love to fight him. You believe he only wants to fight Conor.
No, yeah. Like I'm like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, when Conor takes a break, Nate takes a break. You know what I mean? Like Conor's like, I ain't fighting till August, and Nate's like, I ain't fighting till July or some shit. He just, I guess his ego doesn't let him say, like, I just want to fight Conor. Just say it. Like, just be honest with everyone. If that's who you want to fight, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't call everyone out. And, if you don't have no intention of fighting anybody, you're getting a bunch of fans excited who, you're just bullshitting. You don't want any work from any lightweight in the division. Then just don't say anything to any of the lightweights in the division. Everything will be cool. But when you say things like that, you should be ready, to at least fight somebody.
So once this came out and you tweeted back at him, even the UFC's Twitter account started to play it up. I'm just curious, behind the scenes, can you tell us if there were any talks between you and the UFC, your management in the UFC? Are they interested in this fight? Are they trying to make this fight happen?
The UFC wants it. They called and said, what do we want? The UFC called just recently and said, hey, what do we got to do to make this fight happen? Basically asking me on my end, this is my last fight. I only have one fight left in my UFC contract. So for me, I'm like, hey, let's do this shit with a banger. Whatever we're going to do, let's make it a big name. Let's have a big fight. So for me, I don't, it doesn't really matter. UFC saying, what do we got to do to make this fight happen? So I'm willing. The UFC's willing, and you got one guy out there talking a bunch of shit to a whole division, and they're not willing to step up or do anything. So I don't know. I don't quite know where Nate's head's at or what he wants to do. But we had some shit go on in the past where the UFC officials had to break us up. Back in Mexico, and I just thought, hey, you want to return, and you're saying some shit about the whole division. Why don't we finish, what we kind of started? But if you don't want to, no big deal. Like I said, it's just, it was like a pit stop for me before Ferguson and Khabib anyway. But if you don't want to, then I'll just keep helping Frankie get ready for Max, and we'll do it that way.
So you say the UFC is interested, and that's great news, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. Did they say to you, okay, if we make this fight happen, if we can get it done, we want to re-sign you as well? Would they let you go into the last fight of your contract against Nate Diaz? Or if you want the Diaz fight, you're going to have to sign another deal?
I think the UFC wants to keep going, wants to re-sign. I have they want to resign.
Okay.
We haven't got to that agreement yet, but I'm sure we will. I have a good rapport with everybody there, and we're definitely going to sit down and come to an agreement. But for me, it's real about like what this next fight is, who it's going to be, whether it's the Tony Khabib, whether one of them guys drop out and I step right in, or whether Nate wants to do something in the meantime, or whatever, or whether I'm just helping Frank get ready for Max. That's just what it is. But I'm sitting here idle And the May, June just sound like a damn good date to me. So it is what it is.
In your mind, how are you approaching the last fight on your deal? Do you want to play it out? Do you want to test? You're kind of the guy who sort of kickstarted this whole free agent thing. Do you want to test the waters, or would you like to get something done even before that last fight happens?
To be honest, I don't care. Free agency is great, and in this sport, to be one of the top guys in the world, champion everywhere, and become a free agent, that's an amazing thing. I'm sure there'll be offers everywhere, but I have a good rapport with the UFC as well, and I'm sure they'll step up and they'll do the right thing and pay, but. I don't care either way, Ariel. I just want some big fights, some fights that fans are going to get excited about, get some people in front of me that is going to force me to fight in a way that gets everyone excited. I'm having a good time either way. I'm outside dance studio right now. My little daughter's dancing. I'm living life, living the dream, brother.
I appreciate you taking some time out because I know she means the world to you. So thank you for that. We won't keep you too long, but I'm just curious, like if you could put yourself in his body. It's interesting, the timing. You bring up a great point because they booked the title fight between Khabib and Tony Ferguson, so that kind of frees up Conor for a second, and then he comes out with this tweet. Why do you think he does this? Why do you think he throws it out there, hey, I'm coming after all of you, when in your mind, as you said, he just wants to fight one guy? Why do this, and does this make you think any differently of Nate Diaz, the way he's going about it, based on what you think his ultimate end goal is?
I don't know. I think as a fighter, we're in the public eye. We get a lot of attention, but most of the attention we get is when we're fighting, So when you're sitting there and ain't nobody giving you love or attention, maybe you throw a tweet out, maybe see if people still love me or not. I don't know. I don't know what it is. If you're not fighting and nobody's saying shit about you or giving you any love, maybe you just kind of want to, maybe let me get some attention from fans. You got to fight in order to get that attention from fans and get them to kind of to care about what you're doing. If you're not fighting, then fight fans aren't going to be all about that. You in general. So I just think it was maybe a little ploy for a little bit of attention because he hasn't been getting any or whatnot. But he has his own shit going on. But I sincerely thought, hey, this guy's trying to rumble. He said May or June. He's calling the division a bunch of bitches. Maybe he has a guy in mind. So I just raised my hand. In Mexico, I got in his face after weigh-ins because he kept doing that shit he always does to everyone, and nobody says shit to him. So I went right up to him, and then when I went right up to him, he couldn't even look me in the face. He looked down at the ground. I'm like, oh, this guy's supposed to be so fucking hardcore, so gangster. He looked down at he couldn't even look me in the face when I was confronting him about all the mean mugs and all that shit, and he looks at the ground, and then the UFC officials kind of jump in the middle of me and him, and then squash the whole thing. But I told him, after I beat Gilbert up, I said, you're fucking next, and we almost had something going right after the Gilbert fight, but that kind of fell to pieces. So I was like, hey, let's figure that out.
Yeah, I remember you being on the show 2 days after. I remember talking to him at the arena in Mexico, and it seemed like both of you wanted it at the time. Why didn't it ever happen? Do you remember?
Then because they were telling me I was on my way to get the belt. I'm like, I don't fucking want to fight. I'm about to get the belt. Who do I have in front of me? I came in UFC, and we had Gilbert, who was number 3, and then next was going to be like Pettis or something like that, yeah. And then right to Dos Anjos. So it was like 3, 2, 1, and it wasn't like 3, and then I was already on a trajectory to get the belt. So I'm like, I was going to face the guys who were in front of me, and in this case, the 2 guys that are in front of me are fighting each other. And I'm probably still going to end up fighting one of them guys because that fight probably going to get scrapped. They're 0 for 3 there, so somebody might get scrapped. So I'll be ready for that. And if I'm not, I was just looking at Nate. Like, Nate will be a pit stop before it could be with Tony, and that was my thinking. But he don't want no work. He wants He wants one guy, and I don't even care. I'm not even blaming him for it. Take that dude, but don't say shit to anybody. Like, just don't get people excited. You know, I'm not hating on him. Do your thing. Like, if you wanna fight that one dude, go ahead and fight him. But don't. You say he's just like kind of lying to everyone. Oh, you're all bitches. Like, all right, man, you're tough. I don't know what to say.
Are you preparing for April 7th? Do you think that either Khabib or Tony is gonna pull out and then you can step in? Is that what you're preparing for right now?
To be honest, I'm not. I don't have any body or person in mind. I'm in the gym, and right now, Edson don't have a fight. Marlon, I don't have a fight. I don't have a fight book. So right now, the only people kind of on our mind is Max Holloway and getting Frankie ready for Max Holloway. So until they throw opponents in our face and stuff like that, that's where our mind's at. It's kind of getting my rounds in, getting my working out in, and then if I could watch Frank spar or even give him a round or something like that and help him out, that's where I think everybody in our training camp, that's where our minds are at right now.
Did you see that press conference they put on in Boston with Khabib and Tony where they said that they're fighting for the real belt, but Conor still has the belt, and they were skirting around it? We don't really know what's going on, and neither do the fighters. And if you did see it, what do you think of this whole situation with the belt you once held?
So initially, all the reporters are going, so what's going on? But then I had a couple I put a tweet out, and I was like, it's silly that people are asking, is it for the belt? If they're fighting for the undisputed title, then they're going to strip Conor. They have to strip Conor. You can't have two undisputed titles. But then I seen another theory online. I'm like, oh, that's exactly what it is. What's going on is this fight is 0-3. They're not going to strip Conor of a belt and then have a vacant title for a fight that's 0-3. They have not been able to make this fight. Every time they book it, they're not able to make the fight. Either Khabib gets hurt or Tony gets hurt or someone gets hurt. So I think what the UFC is thinking, this is a theory, it's just opinion on my point, is this fight is not going to happen. It's a very unlikely chance that it's going to happen. So they're not going to strip the champion and then have this fight fall through and not have a champion. So I think the day weigh-ins, they're going to strip him. It's going to make real big news, and then they're going to have a title fight. And it's also going to make big news. So it's going to make for a lot of publicity in one day. And that's my theory.
Okay. By the way, speaking of people Dustin Poirier is fighting Justin Gaethje on April 14th. Who do you like in that fight, your last two opponents?
It's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a hell of a great fight. That's hard to say. Justin he's kind of like me. He don't go away. I think Dustin technically is a more sound fighter. Dustin's probably a more sound fighter everywhere. Like standing up, he's a little bit cleaner. Justin got the better wrestling. Dustin with better jiu-jitsu. So, I mean, it can go either way, but I don't know, man. Justin just don't quit. He has zero zilch, like no quit in him. Like not at any point in the fight when I was fighting Justin Gaethje, there's certain points where I was just damaging him bad and hitting him with really hard shots. And there wasn't any point in that fight, now for 1 second, where I felt like he is accepting defeat. Like not at any point, but where he was accepting it. He was just, in his mind or even in his spirit, I felt like he just always felt like he was going to win, always trying to do damage, always never giving up, And I couldn't say the same about my fight with Dustin Poirier. So like if that fight kind of gets into the little deeper rounds, I feel like Justin could take over and then start like doing serious damage, kind of like on the way the Michael Johnson fight went. But I think the first couple rounds, he's gonna have an uphill battle technically. So we'll see.
Last thing for you, Eddie, and again, thank you for the time. Your road in the UFC has been incredible. I mean, a who's who: Cerrone, Melendez, Pettis, RDA, Conor, Poirier, Gaethje. Arguably one of the toughest roads ever. You get this Nate Diaz fight. Where do you put him? Like in your mind, how tough is Nate Diaz right now? Where does he stack up, considering the opponents you've faced thus far in the UFC?
He's up there. I barely look at ranking anymore because it's so subjective. Like I don't look at rank. I think guys who get ranked are just guys who the UFC is just trying to put in title contention. It's kind of what it seems like, but. He's up there, man, and to be honest with you, I'm just trying to get the biggest names, and I've done that in the very beginning of UFC. I just want the biggest names. I feel like the people tune in for that. They want to see the biggest names fight each other, like two giant entities like Pepsi versus, or like McDonald's versus Burger King, like the biggest giant corporations fighting each other. So Diaz Alvarez would go well. Diaz Melendez went well. Alvarez Melendez. So like the biggest names we can get going against each other for the fans is always where I want to be at. And hey, it's funny. I'm cool with these guys. Like Nick. Nick came to my after party in Texas after I fought in Dallas. After I fought Dustin Poirier, Nick I think was getting kicked out of the club, and my manager had an after party for us booked where we got to stay a little later, and I invited Nick up. And Nick came up. He hung out with me, my wife, my brothers, my friends. He hung out with all of us. I always been cool with Diaz. It wasn't until Mexico where, that shit happened with Nate. But even after that shit with Nick came up, hung out with us, was a year ago, something like that, and we chopped it up, and everything was cool.
So does it happen? What's your prediction? What do you think? Does it actually happen? You said UFC wants it. You want it. Does it happen?
It's going to be purely up to Nate Diaz if he wants to rumble or not. I'm here if he wants to do it. He said a lot of stuff, so we'll see. It's on him. And there's fans who go, oh, he just wants money. It's his money. Let me tell fans something. I know Nate's contract. I know it. I know exactly what he gets. I hired his management to when I was doing my McGregor deal, so I know his deal in and out. Nate's getting paid money. He's gonna make millions, regardless of who he fights. So like people saying, oh, he don't want to fight for 200,000 or 300,000. He don't want to fight Alvarez for 2. He's not going to. If he fights me, he's gonna make over $1 million, guaranteed. So don't worry about Nate making money. If he don't want to fight, it's because he don't want to fight the opponent. It's not because of your money. He's gonna make money. Everybody's gonna make money. So I just want to make that clear because like there's always like a reasoning behind fighting certain guys, and if it's a money reason, then I get it. I totally get it. I got a wife and kids at home too. You got to make money, but you don't make money. You're gonna do over $1 million for a fight. A couple $1 million, then money can't be the reason after that. So we'll see.
All right. Well, best of luck getting it. I'd love to see it. Years in the making. I think it makes sense from a whatever ranking, whatever stature standpoint, whatever you want to say. I feel like it's the fight that makes sense. So I'm curious to see if they actually get it done, if they can get it done, if they can convince him to get. Do you know if they've actually offered it to him, by the way? Like, have they approached him with the idea? Do you know?
I think he was offered me months back, not recently.
Okay.
I just got a call recently saying, we kind of interest and what do we want on our end to make the fight happen, you know what I mean? So that just lets me know the promotion's for it, for it. So the next person in line is not to be Nate.
Okay.
And what was that? I wanted to say, hold on. There was some. I want to clear some things up.
Okay.
I forget. I love you guys though, and my fans, everybody out there, who's listening, who's supporting me and behind me. This shit is far from over, and I'm just getting warmed up and just having some fun with it. So I appreciate all my fans out there who continue to follow, and I'm gonna bring it every time.
Much love, Eddie. If you remember what you wanted to say, just text me. I'll read it on the air, all right?
I sure will. All right.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thanks, Ariel.
All right, there he is. The Underground King, Eddie Alvarez. interesting to note. The UFC has approached him. We'll see what happens. I've reached out to Mr. Diaz. As you know, a tough man to pin down, but hopefully we'll hear from him sooner rather than later. Okay, let's move along. Someone who knows a thing or two about the Diaz brothers. Remember way back when, round of the year, one of the greatest rounds ever against his brother Nick Diaz. The one and only Paul Semtex Daly has been in the news as of late. I want to talk to him about his career, where he stands with Bellator, his future. Let's check in with England's own Paul Daly. He joins us now on the phone. Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am. What's up, man?
Good to talk to you, Paul. It has been a while. It's great to have you on the show. So you have been in the news as of late. Can we start before you went to Facebook? You went to Facebook a few days ago and said that you've asked for your release from Bellator. Why did you do that? Why did you ask for your release? What led to that?
It's just been an accumulation of bullshit, basically, on Bellator's end. And it just kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what, if you're not going to keep to your word, and if you've been throwing up smoke screens, just let me go. If I'm not a valued member of Bellator, then just let some other promotion who feels they can make use of me and put me where I feel I need to be deserved, which is at the front of a promotion, then just let me go. And the response was, yeah, you'll get it. I said, can I have it in writing? The response that I got was, yes, you will have it in writing. And I've got the whole text message. I can screenshot it. I'm not going to name the Bellator VP where the whole conversation went down, but it's a guy that's up there that sits next to Scott at all these big press conferences and stuff. So I thought it was legit. I thought I was free from Bellator, and then the next day I'm hearing I'm not.
Could you tell us, why you're upset, the smoke screens, why you don't feel like a valued member? Like, what happened that led you to feel that way?
It's a bunch of things, to be honest with you. I think it got sour with Bellator when I didn't take the March 9th date that was offered for Bailey versus MVP. It wasn't MVP himself. It was the date and the timing of it that I wasn't happy with. And for me, I lost to Rory McDonald, one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in my eyes, anyway. And I went back in against another highly ranked UFC cast-off, if you can say that, in Lorenz Larkin, and I won. Now, in my eyes, the next fight for me isn't MVP. Off the back of that, it's somebody else. And me and Bellator had a list of names. I put it to them and said, yeah, this kind of timeline works for us, and we're going to make it happen. And that's what I thought. It just didn't happen that way. And then, from there, recent times, and Scott talking about MVP, and, it just kind of got to a point where I'm like, this is bullshit. For me, our local team here in Nottingham is Nottingham Forest. They ain't in the Premiership. Recently, they just beat Arsenal. You know what I mean? If that kind of shit happens, you publicise it. For me, Bellator didn't do any of that. I beat Lorenz Larkin. He was in all the press. He's coming from the UFC. Blah blah blah. He just went 5 rounds with Lima. I knocked him out within 2 rounds. The build-up was great. He was, the whole weighing thing was good. And then for me, I don't feel like they capitalised on that. And they didn't capitalise on it. Then they didn't give me a fight that I thought made sense. And then they sort of just forgot about me. And then just started talking about MVP, who was booed at his last fight, fought a terrible boxing match on British TV against some guy who should be working on the doors or flipping burgers at McDonald's. That's what he looked like anyway. And I just kind of got pissed off, as I do. Everybody knows what kind of character I am. I say what I think, and I just said it.
So when you asked for your release, you said this Bellator executive said, yes, we will grant.
I went straight to Facebook and said, I've asked my release from Bellator. It's been okay, and whatever I said, I've got 8 months in the sport. I just want to make exciting fights. And that's the truth, Before I came on the scene, you can look at my Facebook page. Somebody said, I don't know the person personally, but they said, don't let Ariel bait you. And my response to him is, you can't bait you. That's what they said. I don't know what kind of reputation you got nowadays, Ariel.
What are you talking about?
That's what they said.
Bait you.
They said, don't let him bait you. And I said, I can't be baited because I always tell the truth. What I put on Facebook is the truth. What you hear in the interviews is the truth. Now, if I was telling lies and this and that, then yeah, I could be putting it flat. But everything I'm saying is exactly how it happened, and it's the God's honest truth.
Okay. I don't know what these people are talking about. I'm just asking questions. There's
I
no
need
baiting.
one, man. I always thought you was a straight-up guy.
Yeah, come on. I mean, we've known each other for years. So then what happens? Because now it seems like you're not released, right? They're saying you're not released.
Yeah, now it seems like I'm not released, and I thought, oh, okay, so I hit a contact that I have with Bellator again. I say, okay, the Rory Lima fight played out, the Fernando Gonzalez, the Larkin fight played out. I'm thinking they're four welterweights of note. You know, now I'll approach you and say, now do you have anything lined up for me? Then a possible opponent or anything? No, we still have nothing for you. And again, my response is, how can you have nothing for me, an idea of what you're going to do with me as a fighter when you're supposed to be one of the premier shows in the world? You have something planned out. You have something that you can tell me. You know, we're waiting on this, we're waiting on that. It's going to be here, there, but they're giving me nothing. It's like Bellator is kind of shut shop on Sensex. Maybe because I speak my mind, but either way, you know, my career is in your hands. And I'm not at the beginning of my career, I'm at the end of my career. And there's certain things that I want to do, so just let me know. That's all. That's the problem. They're not telling me anything. And this, I would like to say it's just me, but since I've gone public, I've had managers of other Bellator fighters kind of, you know, telling me the same thing. So obviously they've got shit they need to sort out over there, but they need to sort it out quick.
I feel like over the years you've had a pretty solid relationship with Scott Coker. Have you talked to him at all about your issues, the things that are bothering you?
As far as a solid relationship goes, me and Scott, we don't talk like I talk. I feel like Scott's always, he enjoys the way I fight. So that's the kind of relationship. He knows he can put me in a fight and I'm going to entertain the crowd. And I honestly don't think it's Scott. I think it's the TV guys, you know, Paramount, the guys making movies and kids entertainment or whatever. They have got a certain plan for Bellator, and a real straight-up fighter like me might not fit the plans, which is my own explanation to why they like this guy bouncing around in Pokemon hats and doing spinning bird kicks, and why they're getting characters like a Rampage. I love him from back in the day, but, you know, he's clearly out of shape and, you know, not half the guy he used to be, but that's the only thing. That's the only thing that's in my head. They're trying to make this fucking movie when you got a fighter like me who just wants to fight. This is my argument. I just want to fight. They're like, Paul, you know, they said some things, whatever. We would pay you well, like you fought 3 times last year. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it's not about the money. It's not about last year. It's about I haven't fought since September, and I'm coming off a fantastic win. Probably, as far as namesake goes, probably one of my biggest wins in recent times, and you've done nothing with it. It's like there's no follow-up to it. That's my problem.
And so when they told you that you were released via text message, do you have any idea why they're not releasing you now?
I have no idea.
You would like
no
to...
idea.
Is it fair to say you still want to be released, though? Nothing's changed, really, from your end?
I would love to be released because I feel like, you know, I've always like, you can see from my fight record, I've had a hell of a lot of fights. I like to be active. I do like to be with a big promotion, maybe for the TV exposure, the purses are slightly bigger, but for me, I like to be active, especially, like I say, now I'm on the back end of my career. I want to keep going. I don't want to be sat out fighting twice a year or 3 times a year. I want to be fighting. I want to be doing what I love to do. So, yeah, I would love to be released from my contract. And since I put that, I've never seen a response like, you know, for me, I feel there's a lack of respect from Bellator as well. I feel like it's like they don't respect or really value me as a fighter. They know I'll fight. That's why they like me. People pull in and fight, you know, accept the fight, he'll go out, he'll entertain. But I don't think they value me as far as demand as such. But since I put that post out on Facebook, every promotion you can think of, literally every promotion you can think of, has been inboxing me, has sent a middleman to contact me. Does he want to go here, there, and everywhere? I don't know if the words got round, but maybe that's why Bellator's holding on to me. Like, shit, people are still interested in Semtex. They just, you know, he is a valuable, marketable fighter. People do like to see him fight around the world. These are Russian oligarchs. These are people, Dubai princes, the king of fucking Brunei. I don't even know who these people are. Over in Asia, the big promotion in the USA, just off a Facebook post. So obviously there's something still left. There's something still left in Semtex that other people see. But Bellator is just fucking blind to it.
Does that include the UFC? You talk about promotions contacting you, middlemen. Does that include the UFC?
I don't know what I can say as far as my contract's concerned, so I'll just use regions and promotions, middlemen, and give you an idea. But every promotion, I said, every promotion has been in contact with me via some kind of middleman.
Hypothetically, if you are a free man, would you like to go back to the UFC? Do you feel like your career will be incomplete if you don't get another chance to right the wrong of your first stint there?
I think it's a great storyline. I think the guys at the UFC now will see that it's a great storyline. I think there's some great fights for me still there at the UFC, but, you know, my main objective is just to fight and be active, and that's what I want to do.
And I want to ask you about this 18 months. So in 18 months, you're done? That's it? You put this hard deadline on your career?
Yeah, I don't want to fight much past 35. I'm 35 real soon. And, yeah, I think I've been very sensible in the way that I've been in my career. I think I've got things comfortable enough for me to go on into that next stage of my life without struggling too much. You know, hey, if Mike Tyson can blow $500 million, you know, then anything's possible. But I think my mind's in the right place, and I've got things set up so that I can step away and look to do other things with my life.
What would you do? Like in around 18, 19, 20 months?
Make more money. Just make more money. Make more money.
Would you be involved in MMA or something completely different?
You know, I have a gym already. You know, that's something that I've spent years in Nottingham. And I have other things going on for me. And I like business. You know, I'm very different to how people would imagine me to be. You know, I'm very, very different. And I just like to pursue some of those other things that I'm involved with.
How many fights do you think you have left? Like in those 18 months, how many times do you want to fight?
As much as possible. As
Okay.
much as possible. How many fights am I at? Well, 67. There's not many other fighters, pro MMA fighters, have had as many fights as I have, 63 or something like that. Not Kingdom of Kickboxing. I can fight as long as I'm fit and able to. If I had a fight this weekend, I have no injuries, I'll fight the weekend after. That's the kind of fight I was since day one. You can look for old interviews. I said I'm in the sport. Obviously, I want to make money and you know, be able to do it full time. But I wanted a fight record like those Muay Thai guys. I said that in interviews as far back as 2006. I just thought it was cool. You know, 196 fights, whatever, 157 wins. I just want to fight. I think you learn so much more from fighting than just bumming around and doing nothing or whatever. I just want to fight. I'm like old school.
So what do you think happens here with Bellator? Is the damage done? Are you not willing to ever fight for them again?
There's damage there. The damage is there already. Like, how it goes is completely up to them.
Okay.
Obviously, as far as I'm aware, at this point, I'm still on the contract. So how they want it to play out is completely up to them. But I will not be signing an extension. We can go as far as saying that. And I think I have 2 fights left. So either way, whether they release me now or they release me after these 2 fights, I'll be looking to do something else.
Do you have a dream fight? Do you have a fight that you would love to have before it's all said and done?
There are loads of fights. Well, there's a few fights. Obviously, the Nick Diaz fight would be crazy, but, you know, he's made a hell of a lot of money during his time on pay-per-view at the UFC. I'm not sure it would interest him. He's more interested in smoking weed and investing in those type of companies. They're fighting right now. Tyron Woodley, I would love to fight. And I have a lot of respect for that guy. As I said in the recent interview, he's one of the few guys that always credits having fought me. There's not many guys that, even as champion, will say, shit, I fought Paul Daly. He puts me up there. I'll say Paul Daly. I fought Warren McDonald. I fought Carlos Condit. And that's all I'm asking. I just want respect. I've done a lot for the sport of MMA worldwide, and especially for the UK. All I want in the last 18 months is to have some more great fights, more great knockouts, and keep giving the respect that I deserve. There's no other British fighter that has been fighting in America for over a decade. There's only me, and he's still fighting if Michael Bisping was done. There's no other fighter right now that's still fighting in the USA for 10 years or more other than Michael Bisping. And I don't get that. I don't get the credit I deserve. I'm not getting it at Bellator. So, fuck it. We'll see where we can get some respect, make some more money, and put in some more entertaining fights.
Last thing for you, Paul, and I always mean to ask you about this when you're on, and I always seem to forget, but here we are in 2018. You spit fire all day on Facebook, yet you still don't have a Twitter account. What the heck is going on? It drives me nuts. Why can't we get on Twitter?
I know. I'm just not feeling it. Like I say,
You're so good on Facebook.
Yeah, I just like to keep it to Facebook because there's only one place people can find me, and it's right there. I like it like that.
So it's never happening?
Not for now. Not unless I set up a business or something away from myself that needs the extra marketing. But as it has Paul Semtex Daily, you can find me on Facebook.
All right, fair enough. I appreciate you coming on, Paul. I'm sorry to hear that this happened.
I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, but keep us posted, please, and I hope you will tell your fans on Facebook that there was no baiting here, that it was a nice, friendly conversation between two old mates, all right?
All right, mate. Nice one.
All right, talk to you soon. There he is, Paul Daly, stopping by. Hopefully they get that issue sorted. He is still one of the biggest names in Bellator, and as he mentioned, coming off a big win over Lorenzo Larkin, who was victorious on Friday. But interesting comments about promoters reaching out, and of course, UFC, what a story that would be if he can end his career there after what happened way back when. Remember that? UFC 113, Josh Koscheck, the punch after the bell. What a story that would be. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Developing situation. All right, let's move along. Some exciting news came out on Friday regarding one of the greatest boxers of all time. You heard me talk about Roy Jones on this program many a times, one of my favorite songs ever. I say it all the time. I've even labeled fights on cards as "Y'all Must Have Forgot." It's one of the great lines in combat sports history. They even included it in the actual press release announcing that his retirement fight would be February 8th in Pensacola, Florida, and it would air on UFC Fight Pass. That's the plan. His retirement fight, Roy Jones Jr.'s retirement fight, is going to air February 8th from his hometown of Pensacola as he approaches 50, and it's going to air on UFC Fight Pass, the very first boxing match to air on UFC Fight Pass, and who better than Roy Jones to kick off that venture? And how about this? He's joining us via the magic of Skype. There he is, the one and only, the legend. Y'all must have forgot. He's still around, kicking it. Roy Jones Jr. How are you, Roy?
Doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to talk to you again. How did this come about, this deal with UFC Fight Pass, having your last fight there?
Just we've been friends for so long, myself and Dana. And, when I got to this last point, I was like, what would be good to do? How can I go out with a bang? Something that's different, which is what I like to do. And I started thinking, I said, if I did the first boxing match on Fight Pass, that would be pretty interesting. That would be different, and I'll be the first. And I love to be first. I love to be first. So we made the call. Dana put some things together for me. We made it happen. I'm so blessed and so honored and so happy to have that happening now.
So you reached out. You were the one that pitched us to him, and he was into it right off the bat.
Of course. my team reached out to him, and of course he was into it. But we've been talking about it back and forth anyway. But we was like, well, why not start right here? This would be perfect. Roy's last fight, first time we do it together, and we go from there, you know? So it worked out, and it's a perfect marriage, I believe.
Okay, so then let me ask you about the quote-unquote retirement fight. We know how these go in boxing. Is this 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, your last fight ever?
Well, you know, I'm not God, so I can't predict the future. And it's like, because of certain situations, you know, myself, Dana, Anderson Silva, a lot of us have been in a lot of talks for a lot of years about an Anderson Silva Roy Jones Jr. boxing match.
Yeah.
Because of my age, it gives Anderson a better chance now and makes it a more believable fight, and a fight that could be probably big, and a fight that, you know, would be interesting because we both are entertainers. But I love boxing. I love MMA. I love UFC. I love any type of combat sports because I have nothing but the utmost respect for anybody who's willing to go out and face another man, mano to mano, in whatever they want to do. So it is my last fight as far as boxing is concerned for me. Unless something like that jumped on the table that was big, then no reason for me to fight other than that.
Is there any interest on that side of the table, on the UFC side of the table? You know, it's been out there. They poo-pooed it, but they did Conor versus versus Floyd recently. Do you feel like there's interest?
No, I know there's interest. There's always interest because we were two of the biggest showmen in the game. He was one of the biggest showmen of his era. I'm the biggest showman of my era. So there's always interest into what would happen because he even used to mimic some of my tricks in his MMA fights, UFC fights. So it's like, of course, people want to see, can he do what I did to other people? Can he do that to me? Because he's learned how to do it by watching me. And of course, they want to see, can I go in my tank and dig out something new that he hasn't seen and do it to him? Because he knows all my old stuff because he's seen it. So I had to go find something new for him. So of course, there's always interest, but right now I'm just focusing on getting this done February 8th. And, you know, if something big happens, it happens. If not, I'm cool.
Have you changed your stance on Anderson at all after, you know, the 2 failed drug tests? Do you feel differently about him at all?
No, I don't feel differently about him because for me, you know, it's like people nowadays, you can fail tests just about for anything. I mean, look how many people fail tests now. You know, you can take real fuel out the store and you can fail a drug test. I did that before. So it's like, there's so many things that they'll fail a drug test for now until it's like you never really know the true details of what happens. So I don't really get into I don't think he's a cheating guy because fighters are fighters. We don't want to take nobody else's life and we don't want nobody else to take our life. So I can't see a guy who is a upstanding citizen, a real fighter, truly just cheating for an advantage to hurt somebody else. I don't really see it too often. Not guys like Anderson. There are some guys that, you know, have those personalities who would do anything to win, but he doesn't strike me as one of those type guys. So I don't know. I mean, not that he didn't fail the test. I don't know. It could have been injury related, something that he was trying to heal fast. I don't know. I don't have enough evidence to really know the true facts. So with that being said, I don't think he's the type of person that would cheat me in a mano-to-mano duel. Even though he knows that boxing I should have somewhat of an advantage, I don't think he would try to cheat me in that because he didn't want to do it too long. He has nothing but the utmost respect for me, just as I have for him. So I don't think that he would be willing to try to take a chance and cheat just to get an advantage.
As you may know, Dana White has been talking about going into boxing, launching something called Zuffa Boxing. Does your fight fall under that umbrella?
Oh, it could. I mean, it would be a start, and I think that Zuffa Boxing would be a great thing because he has done a lot of things with UFC that boxing needs. So I think he would be a shot in the arm to boxing to help him out because it would be something that's definitely needed. And the way that he promoted the UFC has now given people open minds about the way that we can promote boxing better and make it a better situation for everybody.
So you feel like he would be successful in boxing? You would be in support of this? Because I've talked to some other people who say yes. I've talked to some who say no. How do you feel?
I couldn't see him not being successful in boxing because he's open-minded enough to hear what people have to say. The problem with boxing is everybody's closed-minded and stuck on the old ways. Nobody wants to bring new things and infuse new ways into boxing. Well, he knows in order to make a change, you got to do something different. You can't do the same things and expect different results. You have to do something different. Floyd came out and did different things and got different results. So we have to do different things to get different results.
Okay. And as for your future in boxing, you're still going to promote after this, right? You still have your promotion island fight. You're still going to be in boxing.
Yes, I do still be in boxing, promoting, and training fighters.
Okay. And just curious, Roy, last time we spoke was before the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and, we've had some time to digest it. Do you feel like that was good for boxing, bad for boxing, just kind of a fight? There were no repercussions, good for MMA, bad MMA? Like, if I asked you, okay, what was Mayweather-McGregor? What's your take on what transpired on August 26th?
No repercussions for neither sport. It was an event. And that's what boxing, but boxing has to back up and realize that it wasn't about the sport of boxing. It wasn't about the sport of MMA. It was an event. And in an event, we got a chance to see what happens when, if you think about boxing-wise, this guy has never been 10 rounds. How could he possibly survive for 12 rounds? And when you think about MMA-wise, if they took the gloves off and he got a chance to kick and do all he do, Floyd would have had the same thing, not a chance. So it's like with them, this was not about neither sport. It was more about an event, something that people want to see them share the ring to see how would it look, what would the outcome be, what would happen if he could hit Floyd. Nothing really happened, but we want to see that. What would happen? Could he not kick? Could he go a whole fight without kicking? What would happen if Floyd hit him? There were a lot of questions that people wanted to answer. So it's like when you have fights like these are sometimes bigger than the actual sport itself because they become events. People pay attention. Roy Jones, Anderson Silva, it's not about the boxing. It's not about the MMA part. It's about an event because people want to know, can he really keep up Roy's hand speed? Can he really take Roy's punches? Can he hit Roy hard enough to cause Roy problems? There are a lot of questions that people want to know. Can he use Roy's own tricks on Roy and trick Roy? People want to know that. Can he survive with his hands down, playing with Roy like Roy do other people? People want to know that. So it's like it's not about the initial sport sometimes. Sometimes it's about the event.
Did you see anything out of Conor that makes you think that he could have a career in boxing, a successful career?
No.
Nothing.
No.
You weren't impressed?
I mean...
You weren't impressed?
Well, I wasn't impressed with the boxing. What I am impressed by, though, is that he had the heart to get in there. And that
but skills-wise, technique-wise.
Technique-wise, it wasn't really what I would have wanted to see it. Not that he couldn't get there, because with the right training, he probably could get there, because if he wants it, he could get there, because he learns fast and he has a big heart. But right now, from what I've seen, no, I didn't see anything going in that direction yet.
Okay.
It could happen, but right now, yeah.
You're 49. You're about to be 50. When you started this, did you think that you would last this long? Was this always part of the plan?
I had no clue whatsoever. But like I tell people too, I didn't even have a clue that I'd ever fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, and I became heavyweight champ of the world. So there's a lot of things that I didn't see coming, including this extended career. No, I didn't. But that lets you know that I'm not on my time. I'm on God's time.
Well, so why are you like? Do you feel good? Like, is your body holding up? Why are you saying goodbye now?
Well, I feel wonderful, but the body don't hold up as good in training as it used to. So now things start to happen to you. Tendons go, ligaments go, and it's kind of hard. So it's like now, if you're not gonna make something happen pretty quickly, it's time to probably start getting out, because your body starts telling you, when you start getting all these injuries, your body's telling you that, hey, maybe it's getting a little rough on your body and it's time to go.
Okay, and like, do you feel like at this point you're approaching this fight? It's Pensacola. This is always what you said, right? You always said that you were going to end in Pensacola, right? How big of a deal did it have to be in Pensacola? I know that's your hometown, but why does it have to end there, in your opinion?
It didn't have to, but for me, just the type of person that I am and who I am, I would have loved for it to end at home. So if I'm going to do just a regular boxing call of the day, why not sit up at home and finish where I started?
Okay, and say goodbye to your people, right? That's where you still live.
I want to say goodbye to everybody, but I want to finish where I started. That's the best thing.
I feel like boxing had a better year than MMA last year overall, and I think that it's starting off great for boxing. There's been some big fights. There are some big ones to come. HBO, Showtime, PBC, all that stuff. How do you feel? It always drives me nuts when people say boxing is dead. This narrative, boxing is dead. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The ratings. We just saw Errol Spence do great on Showtime. How do you feel about the current state of boxing right now with the top draws? Like, what's your take on it as we stand here today, as we talk here today?
Boxing is in a very good spot now. Boxing is on its way back, and the reason it's on its way back is because we went through a time where we wasn't getting a chance to see The best fighters fight the best fighters in their prime. Now that's gotten out of the way, and we're back to getting where we're supposed to be. The best fighters are fighting the best fighters again. And that's all that boxing had been missing for a long period of time. So when you got top guys and they're willing to fight top guys to make for the best fights, then boxing comes back because it's the oldest sport around, but it's still one of the best sports around, and people want to see that. And I think even having UFC involved, because UFC also does that. They put the best against the best. And by making that happen, you get people get a chance to get what they want. Just like people want to see the best boxer and the best MMA guy in the ring together. Now, he may not be completely the best MMA guy, because people can argue that John Jones may be the best MMA guy today. You know, people may argue that Anderson Steele was the best MMA. It doesn't matter, but they were two high-name people. And to put those two high names in the ring at the same time made for an extravagant event, the biggest money-making event of all times in sports. So that's what you want to strive for. Those are the type of things you want to make happen. But boxing and MMA came together to make that happen. So why wouldn't it be a beautiful marriage?
Is there a name or two that really gets you excited? Like when you find out this guy's fighting, you have to watch your favorite fighters right now?
A lot of them get me excited. I mean, John Jones, Cormier. I mean, all of them get me excited. These guys are the guy from Russia that
Khabib.
Fought. Yeah, Khabib. When Khabib fights, I get excited because he used to wrestle a bear.
Yes.
And he knows there's a lot of guys that get you going. If Uriah Faber fought right now, if BJP, for anybody, any of the old guys too, I get excited about all the guys. I love fighting. I love any kind of combat sport. I love to see what guys bring to the table. What have I contributed to them even taking a step further? You know what I'm saying? So it's like I like to see what phase is. What are they going to incorporate? What are they learning? How much better are they getting? What are they using to get better? You know, and like back in my day, I was a kid growing up. I didn't have a bear, but I used to watch the game Chicken because I knew I wanted to be a real fighter. So I wanted to watch something that God gave. He had a bear that he wrestled with. So he learned a lot from that bear. So it's like I like to draw things that God has given us, put them together, and make for a better situation. That's what makes it different for me. So I love things like this. So when I saw Khabib and I realized he was wrestling a bear as a kid to learn how to fight, that blew my mind because that's using what God gave us to enhance us and make us better. That's why I feel like God gave us these things.
What about on the boxing side of things? Like for MMA fans who may be, trying to get back in or haven't watched in a while, is there a name or two that you really love watching that people should look out for right now?
I love watching a lot of guys fight. I love Errol Spence. I love Lomachenko. I love Terrence Crawford. I love Jorge Linares. I love Triple G, Canelo. The list goes on. The fighters you love to watch, and there's a lot of big fighters. Andre Ward when he does fight. You got a lot of good heavyweights right now. I mean, Deontay Wilder, very exciting, knocks out almost everything he touches. I mean, there are a lot of good guys in boxing right now that you should pay attention to, and they're on different networks. And the networks have their beats too, but there are a lot of really good fighters out there that you should watch now. Mainly, they will have one coming up with Cinco de Mayo. I think Triple G and Canelo fight a rematch. That's the biggest fight of the year so far.
Yeah.
But now, I'm going to tell you right now, they put Jorge Linares and Lomachenko together. That's another big fight with some little guys that really can fight. So there are a lot of big fights on the horizon right now. A lot of good things about to happen. There's a cruiserweight tournament going on for cruiserweight supremacy. The winner of that tournament will be the world cruiserweight champion. And it would be really fun if Andre Ward came back and fought the winner of that tournament. So there's a lot happening in boxing. Boxing is very well and alive.
Just curious, if Wilder fought Joshua, who would you pick?
Today, I probably would pick Wilder, but that, with a few more fights, a little bit more experience, that fight's going to get more equal because Joshua's a very good puncher and a very good fighter. He just needs a little bit more experience to be able to deal with that straight right hand. And once he gets where he can deal with the straight right hand, it becomes a much more even fight. I love both guys. Both guys are phenomenal fighters. Just that I think Wilder has a little bit more of an experience edge right now. But Joshua just won his title last year. So when Joshua gets a little bit more experience,
you've been doing this for decades. This is old hat for you. You're one of the greatest of all time. I'm just wondering, come February 8th, come the morning of that fight, come the afternoon, come the time that you're in the locker room, you're in front of your people in Pensacola, do you think that you'll be nervous? Do you think you'll be more anxious? Do you think you'll feel more pressure because this is the last one and everyone wants to go out on top? How do you think it will feel come fight night?
Round 4.
I'll probably be crying all day. because it's my last day in the ring, and I know it. So I'll probably be crying all day, but it'll be all good. You know, I'll do what I got to do, put myself together for the fight, and then it's done.
Are you dreading it? Are you dreading saying goodbye?
I never dreading it. I know, there comes a time, and it's like when you start, like I said, seeing that time come, you just got to accept it and move on.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. I'll be watching February 8th on UFC Fight Pass. Thank you so much, Roy. I really appreciate it. Best of luck in training the last couple of weeks here, and, of course, best of luck in the fight. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, there he is, the one and only Roy Jones Jr. How cool is that? Y'all must have forgot. The man himself, Roy Jones Jr. Let me tell you a little more about that fight. He's fighting Scott Sigmund, 30-11-1, 16 KOs, cruiserweight division. It's Thursday, February 8th, only on UFC Fight Pass. 75th fight of Roy Jones Jr.'s career. What a career it has been. 5-fight main card from his Island Fights promotion. Starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It also features MMA prospect Mike Davis and a bunch of other rising stars from the boxing world. Fight Pass now adds live boxing to live UFC, live MMA from around the world, of course, Invicta as well, TKO, Cage Warriors, a bunch of other promotions, live Thai boxing, live grappling, live kickboxing. In 2018, Fight Pass, according to them, will stream over 85 events across combat sports. This is a first for them. As I said, first time they ever air boxing. It is not technically a Zuffa boxing event. It would be a little bit rushed to do that sort of thing. But it does seem as though they are dipping their foot, the toe, if you will, in the proverbial water. So there you have it. Roy Jones Jr. saying goodbye, but it does seem as though he would be willing to fight Mr. Anderson Silva sometime down the line. That's the fight that will never go away. We'll see what happens. For now, it's February 8th. That's his retirement fight. You know how retirements go in boxing. They're retired until their next fight. But pretty cool. It's on Fight Pass. I'll be watching. All right, let's move along. We go from a man who was once the baddest man in the world in the boxing world, heavyweight champion of the world, to the current baddest man on the planet in the world of mixed martial arts, the reigning defending UFC heavyweight champion, the man who broke the record for the most title defenses in UFC heavyweight history, the man who will be fighting Daniel Cormier, as we found out on Friday night, July 7th, UFC 226, for his heavyweight title, the man who will be coaching opposite Daniel Cormier on the upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter, the man who started his own Skype account just to join our program for the first time ever on Skype, the one and only Stipe Miocic. Look at that smile. Look at that smile. This is such an honor. How about that? Stipe Miocic on Skype. This is great. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Look at that. This is a whole new you. This is so great. Wow, Skype. Is it true that you... What's that?
I've always had Skype.
Oh, you what? I was told that you love coming on the show so much, but you wanted to take it up a notch. You wanted to come on via Skype. Is that a lie?
Oh, I totally did a copy just for you.
Wow, this is great. And you got great connection out there. You live in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, but you got great connection.
Yeah, what we do here, we don't have much, but we have good internet connection.
Wow, it's so great to see you. Your eye healed up very well. I saw you on Instagram like a day later, and it was kind of puffed up, but it's virtually gone, right? There's no real swelling left?
No, it's gone. It's just a little black and blue, but not much.
Okay. Well, it's great to see you, champ. We have a lot to discuss. I want to start at the beginning, okay? You leave Boston. You say goodbye with your belt. You win that fight. Did you think in a million years, 5 days later, you'd have another fight booked, you'd be on The Ultimate Fighter? Like, was this on your radar at all?
Not at all. I was just going to go home and sleep and relax and enjoy the downtime.
So when are you approached, or your management, when are you guys approached about this idea, not only to fight Cormier, but to also be on The Ultimate Fighter as a coach?
Well, they said something to me that Thursday before the fight, and I told them no, I'll worry about it after the fight. And then Monday or Tuesday, they came to me and asked me, would you do it? And I said, well, if it's right, yeah. So I had to make sure I was okay with my wife, and it worked out well. So here we are.
Initially, what did you think? Did you think it was a little too soon? I know your wife's pregnant, right? You want to be with her. You just had training camp. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I wanted to make sure it was okay with her. You know, she's ultimately the boss. She's the decision maker.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she was okay. You know, and she thought it was a great idea. And, you know, I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't right. But, you know, we feel it's good. We're good to go. And, you know, all good.
Is she coming with you? I mean, 6 weeks away from home is a long time. Is she going to come with you?
Yeah, she'll be there a little bit. She'll come and go a little bit. You know, she won't be there the whole time, but she'll come for a little bit, leave, come back. So.
Okay. So you got that figured out. As far as like being on the show, the cameras, that whole deal, reality show, how do you feel about that?
I don't mind it at all. Listen, I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the opportunity. You know, and give these guys a chance. You know, hopefully I can help them out and, you know, along the journey. And, you know, we're definitely, you know, show them what I know and all my coaches know. And, you know, pack it up and come to Vegas for a little bit. So, you know, I'm bringing some guys with me that they're exceptional coaches. And, you know, I just hope I can, you know, give them a little bit of knowledge and help them in their journey.
Can you tell us who's the coaching staff? Have you finalized it yet?
Well, my head coach is Mark Montoya from Factory X.
Okay.
In Colorado. He's a great guy. My Marcus couldn't do it, unfortunately. He just couldn't get away. But Mark's going to come in and help me. He's an amazing coach, and I'm very grateful that he's coming with me. And so it's going to be a good time. You know, we're finalizing the rest of the coaches, but he's my head coach.
Okay. And then, of course, I mean, like, tough for me, with all due respect to the show, is kind of the gravy. The big deal, the big news is the fight. July 7th, you versus Daniel Cormier, champion versus champion. How did you feel about that when that was, brought to your attention, when that was, brought to your table, so to speak? Did you like this fight? Did you like this idea? What were your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I match up well. You know, I mean, first of all, Daniel's an amazing person. I think he's a great guy. I've known him for a while. You know, I like the guy. We've done shows together, and so he's just an amazing guy. You know, he's super tough. You know, he's an Olympic medalist. He won the Grand Prix, Strike Force. He's a light heavyweight champ. You know, the guy has so many, accolades. It's amazing. But, we, bumping up at the super fight, and so I would make sure it was right for, both of us. And, it was, and so we're doing it.
Do you feel like he's a bit in over his head here? I mean, he's biting off a little more than he can chew. It's one thing to do it at light heavyweight. You're a big guy, heavyweight. What do you think about him taking this fight?
Listen, he wouldn't take it if he didn't think he have a chance. Tough guy. He's fought heavyweights before. He's a great mixed martial artist. He's one of the best in the world. If not the best. I mean, he's fought numerous of top caliber guys his whole career, and so it's gonna be amazing tonight. I'm excited.
I feel like there's maybe something to be said for the fact that he can make history in this fight. You could just extend history, right? Like, he'll be the guy winning the 2 belts. You're just defending your title. Do you feel like this is being set up for like the Daniel Cormier legacy fight, as opposed to just another fight for you? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's not about him. It's about me. I'm going to win the fight.
Okay.
I'm going to extend my defending streak longer. It's not going to be 3. It's going to be 4.
As you mentioned, you guys spent some time together. Home in Cleveland, you went to the firehouse. He did a whole show following you for a day. BP, all that stuff. You like him. He likes you. Is it weird at all? Like, would you rather not fight a guy who you have this relationship with?
It's business, I guess. It's business at the end of the day. I got no hard feelings ill will towards him. I think he feels the same way. I hope he does. But we're doing it to better our families and ourselves.
Let's address the elephant in the room if we can, Stipe. The big news coming out of Saturday was not only that you won, but let's be honest, what happened with the belt and some of your post-fight comments. Now that we're removed a few days later, 9 days or so later, could you tell us why you did that, why you took the belt from Dana White and gave it to your coach, Marcus Marinelli, to put around your waist?
Well, like I said in the preview, in the post-fight, my coach respects me, I respect him. Nothing more to be said.
Was that something you were thinking about, or was that a spur of the moment? And you know what I love? I love seeing your smile now. I could read you as opposed to just listening to your voice. It's a whole other experience here with you, Stipe. This is great. This is great. You're never allowed to come on via the phone again. Maybe you'll never come back on, but if you do come back on, it has to be via Skype, because this is great. There's 2 layers to this now. Anyway, was that a spur of the moment thing, or was that something that you had been planning on doing for a few days, weeks, whatever?
I don't know. It's between me and my coach. You'll never know. It's a little secret.
Have you talked to Dana since then?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and how did that go?
He apologized over and over again.
Wow.
No, he didn't. He didn't talk.
Okay.
No,
So what?
he, and congratulations on the fight, and offered me the tough, coaching stint, and I, took it. And I was very grateful. I thanked him so much for that opportunity.
This wasn't addressed at all. You didn't clear the air. You didn't talk about it.
No.
You didn't want to talk about it.
No, man, I'm good. Next question.
Okay.
No more talking about this.
Okay. Are you being treated well? Like, are you happy now? Did you get a new deal to take this fight?
Listen, I'm always gonna be happy no matter how I get treated. I got a good life, man. I'm happy with my life. I get paid to fight. I'm a firefighter. I get paid for that too, and I love my wife and my family. We're expecting our first child. I'm nothing better than that.
So you're not looking to clear any airs or talk while you're out there or settle anything. You're good. You're gonna move on.
We'll figure it out, man. I don't, you're just digging right now. I love it.
Why don't you like talking? This is massive news. Yahoo's writing about it. ESPN's writing about it. It's huge news. We want to know what's going on in your head. You say little things, but we want to know.
Well, I want to keep you guessing. I'm giving you a teaser, so you're always wanting more.
That's true. You do a great job of that, by the way.
Thank you.
What about the firefighter job? How are you going to get away for 6 weeks?
I already talked to my chiefs. They were okay with it. They allowed it. They understood. And they wished me good luck. And I'm very lucky at the two departments that I'm at. I'm very lucky.
What are the two departments?
Oakwood Village and Valley View.
Okay, are those two different districts?
Yeah, the two different cities. They're suburbs.
Oh. Okay. I'm sure in the history of those firehouses, they never had someone say, I'm going to do a reality show for 6 weeks. Is that cool, right? This has to be a first for them.
I'm pretty sure. Not that I know of, but I'm pretty.
Has it changed at all? I mean, I've asked you this a couple fights ago, but like now when you're out, I'm assuming you get noticed every time now, right?
Yeah, I mean, but everyone's they're nice. They don't bother me. They don't come up to me like, oh, hey, like if I'm in the middle of dinner, they wait till I'm done, or if I'm with my wife. I mean, everyone's real nice, and they don't bother me. They, maybe if I'm by myself, they'll ask for a picture or whatever, but, they're very, very nice.
Okay, no one's intrusive. No one, like it's the worst when you're eating and someone asks, for a picture, right? Who wants that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens, but I mean, listen, I don't get mad. I just say, hey, can we do it after dinner? Do you mind? I'm having dinner with my wife.
Okay, all right. How many times have you watched the Ngannou fight?
Well, a couple times. Work on some mistakes I did and try to work on some, bad things. Work on the bad things and try to get better at the good things.
If you could share, if you don't mind, what are some? I mean, it was a pretty dominant performance. He didn't win a round, obviously. What are some of the mistakes that you think you made?
I was standing up too tall. I, wasn't bouncing as much as I should. More movement, but stuff like that. And I could have probably did a little bit more ground and pound. But he's a big man. A guy's strong, and I was just trying to wear him out.
Did you feel like you ran out of gas in the fight? Like, were you disappointed at all in your cardio?
No, actually, I felt better as the fight went on. That first round, he was coming at me like a freight train. I was just kind of out of the way, but I felt good conditioning wise. I felt good. I felt better as the round went on. But that first round, I think I just wasn't used to that. I'm not used to someone coming swinging, Hail Mary at me and trying to take my face off.
Considering how hard he punches, and you've been in there with some of the hardest punchers in the sport, where does he stack up? Like, are those the hardest punches you've ever felt in a fight?
No, I mean, I fought harder for sure, of course, but he definitely hits hard every time. You don't want to take any chances, but I just wasn't given the opportunity to, land one of those meat hooks on my face.
Sure.
And end the night early for him. So he definitely hits hard.
Do you think he has it in him to become? It's interesting. Like, everyone jumps off the bandwagon after he loses, right? You've been there before. You lost years ago, and it's almost like crazy to think that you lost at this point because you've been so dominant. Do you feel like he has it in him to get back on track? Like, do you think at some point you'll see him again?
Oh, 100%. He's definitely he's got a lot of potential, man. He just got to work on a few things, and I think he'll be fine. I think he's still still relatively young for the division, and I think that if he works on some of his flaws, he'll be fine.
I have sensed a shift in your popularity, especially since this fight. Like in the last week, like even when we like post the post-fight interview with you, the press conference, like your numbers, your views, I feel like people are starting to finally give you the respect and attention that you deserve. Do you feel the same way? Like, do you feel like there's a shift in your popularity as well? You're more loved, you're more respected, you're kind of a bigger deal now. Do you feel like something has changed in the last few days?
Maybe not. I don't worry about it. People are gonna like me. People are not gonna like me. I don't really care. I just, I hope I hope they're on my team. Backing me up. But if they're not, it is what it is. That's what makes sports. Like just like the Patriots versus the Eagles. There's Patriots fans, there's Eagles fans. It is
Sure.
what it is. But I'm just happy with everything. I'm blessed and I'm just, grateful.
Yeah, it's amazing though, because there was a time I remember you used to like troll everyone on Twitter, but now like you're big time champion. It's a very clean Twitter feed. It's a very like the message is very succinct. You can tell exactly what's going on. I mean, it's kind of a new you here. You're on Skype. I feel like you've taken a turn, is what I'm trying to get at.
I think I'm becoming a man, maturing. I'm not as much as.
Right, father to be.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm excited about. I'm terrified at the same time. Actually, mostly terrified, but I'm super happy and excited.
Do you feel like anything's changed in the way you approach your job because you know that you're going to be a father? Like, do you feel like you have a different set of goals, or your motivation feels different? Like, do you feel like a changed man already?
No, I've always, the way I thought is always, securing my family's future. Knowing I knew we were gonna have a child, I just didn't know when, but I want to secure that future before they were born.
By the way, do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
It's a girl.
Okay. Why do you say it like that?
Oh, because I'm gonna be mush. That girl's gonna have me wrapped around her finger. Whatever she wants, she's gonna get.
Yes.
It's gonna be bad. Yeah.
Let me tell you something, my friend. I have 2 boys, and I just had a girl. There's something different. Yes. Whatever you're expecting, you're right, because that's true. That's going to happen to you.
All my friends that have had girls told me the same thing. They're like, dude, nothing like a girl, I'm telling you. The boys are awesome. He's like, but the girls it's a different ballgame.
And so this kind of works out well for you, right? Because you can get the fight out of the way in July and then focus on, the birth and then getting settled and stuff, right? Is this timeline good for you?
Yeah, it's looking good so far, unless she comes early.
Right. Well, because it's August, right?
Yeah, August 1st.
Okay, all right. So you got some time there. And other than, you had the swelling and everything, but any serious injuries coming out of the fight, hand, anything like that?
No, I got a little cut in my ear, but that was about it.
Okay. What do you say to people like Fabricio Verdum who may be upset that you're not fighting him next, that you're taking this fight? What's your response?
They'll be mad at me. It's not my decision.
But this is, was this not the most interesting decision that, this is a super fight. This doesn't happen every day, right? This gets you excited.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely excited. I love fighting. I love what I do. I'm definitely ready for this fight. I'm coming out, guns blazing, training like a madman like I always do. And, and you can wait till after the fight's done.
Last thing for you. Fight happens. You win July 7th. And still, right? 4 straight title defenses. Just curious, if someone were to put the belt around your waist, who would that person be? Who are we going to give that honor to?
I don't know. It's a big. It's going to take some time. Let me think about that. So that's a lot of pressure to put on me.
Oh man, it's great. I love it. You remember you used to call yourself Stone Cold Stipe. You remember that?
I know. I still do.
You still do, really?
No, sure, I don't.
Okay. This is the second coming of Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. Everyone loves this kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited.
Turn around, Stone Cold Stunner.
Bro, I don't mess around. I'll do it. I'll drop the hammer.
Do you think you'll be one of those guys who does a lot of pranks and stuff like that on the show?
I don't know. We'll see. Decisions. You kept throwing out my stuff, man. I got.
Sure. Okay.
You never know. You might see something.
All right, fair enough. Well, this is very exciting. Who would have thought a week later you've got a show to tape? You're going out right in a day or so, right?
I think I'll do tomorrow.
So you got a show to tape. You got a super fight on international fight. Business really picking up for you. Who would have thought?
Right? Craziness.
You're treated well. You're respected. You're happy. You're smiling. You're on Skype. Life is good.
I can't complain, man. I'm happy and I'm blessed. I'm just very lucky for what I do.
Did you see Ronda Rousey on Royal Rumble yesterday?
I did not. Actually, I was going to watch it. I didn't because I had dinner with the family, but I heard about it. I saw a little bit of it.
What do you think?
That's awesome. Good for her.
You like it?
Good for her.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay. Well, Stipe, congratulations on everything.
You don't like it.
What?
You don't like it.
Well, this is my
I don't
thing.
think you like.
If you care about my thoughts, I think it's great for her. I'm happy for her. I have some concerns about her acting abilities, on the microphone, things like that. It's not just about fighting anymore, right? You got to be a performer. I have some concerns. Yesterday, there were a few things a few red flags came up, so I'm a little worried about it.
How would I do in the WWE?
I think you would kill it. I mean, already you got the feud with the boss. So it's like Stone Cold versus Vince, right? You got that down, right? Baddest man on the planet. You're gigantic. You're a fireman. You come out with the fireman gimmick, knocking people out. I mean, I feel like you'd be. You want to do it? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, don't tease me, man. I mean, I was just getting your opinion here.
Is this a bucket list thing? When it's all said and done, do you want to be in WWE? You versus Brock?
Oh, whatever, man. I'm just worried about July 7th first.
Let's make some headlines. Stipe Miocic, sick of UFC, eyes WWE debut. Is that what you're saying right now?
No, you're just trying to get me in trouble now.
No. I would never want to do that. Stipe, you're the man. I appreciate it. Congrats on getting the big fight. I hope they're paying you boatloads. Millions upon millions upon millions. You deserve it, my man. And thanks for doing this. I really appreciate you going the extra mile and going on Skype. Thank you so much. Great to see that smile. Look at that smile. It's great.
Thanks, man. I appreciate everything.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Stipe. Good luck out there.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. There he is. The one and only Stipe Miocic. The baddest man on the planet. You got to love him. Ultimate Fighter taping next week. Excuse me, tomorrow. Not next week, tomorrow. Starts tomorrow. Stipe's the man. Everyone loves him. He's smiling. He's happy. He's on Skype. You got to love it. So it starts taping tomorrow. And then July 7th, we've got the fight that everyone is talking about, him versus Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight title. And we'll have a lot of time to talk about that, I'm sure. Great to hear from both of them on the show today. Menches, right? Quintessential menches, those two. What is it going to be like? They love each other. They're friends. But this is the kind of fight where you don't need that sort of, you don't need that friction. I can't wait for it. And I think the UFC made the right call, by the way. I'll tell you why later on in the program. Okay, let's move along. Some big news last week out of the World of Glory Kickboxing. A familiar name is headed over to Glory. In fact, he is there already. He is the new CEO of Glory Kickboxing. There was a time when Marshall Zalaznik was one of the most powerful people in the UFC. He helped launch the UFC in the United Kingdom, all the success early on. It was essentially him, Ant Evans, and Michael Bisping doing their thing. And, of course, he helped launch UFC Fight Pass, and he did so much in between, over a decade, with the worldwide leader in mixed martial arts. And now he is headed over to Glory Kickboxing. There was a pit stop in esports, but now it's back in the world of combat sports. He tried to leave us, but he is back in, and he is kind enough to be joining us on the phone right now. Marshall, are you there?
I am. Hello, Ariel.
It's great to talk to you, Marshall. How about this? Congratulations on the big news.
Yeah, thank you. It's really exciting to be talking to you again. I feel like a fighter who can't hang up the gloves.
That's right.
I am back.
Yes, because you left the UFC last year, and then you go to esports, and things are great there, and you're making big deals, Twitch, millions of dollars, and then you get called back. How did this come about? Did they reach out to you? How did this whole thing happen?
Yeah, so I met Glory. You'll remember when Fight Pass did the deal to acquire the live rights to the Super Fight Series, and then they had that K1 library. We did that deal. So I met some of the board members, as well as John Franklin, and we had developed a bit of a relationship as part of that deal. And then after I left the UFC, I had a non-compete for a while, so I wasn't really in the market at all. But nevertheless, Glory would reach out to me to find out if I was interested in coming on board, and I would continually tell them that I had a non-compete, which expired in October. And after October, when the non-compete was over, I started in earnest discussing with them the possibility of joining their group. As you mentioned, I was at Activision Blizzard with MLG, and we were launching the Overwatch League, which is a pretty cool esport league, city-based franchise with all the big sports owners taking an interest in the league. And it was not an easy decision, I have to tell you. The office where I was at Activision Blizzard was 3 miles from my house. I had a great group of people I was working with. I became very attached to them. But I've always loved the fight game. I've always been really infatuated, frankly, with the athletes that compete in combat. And while I've always loved the competition itself, there was something unique about stand-up fighting that I always enjoyed. I was always a boxing fan first. It took me a while to come around to MMA. I became a huge fan while I was working at the UFC. But there was always something unique about stand-up combat, and Glory offered me this opportunity and to get associated with the greatest stand-up combat league. And my wife and son were, as you know, I always talk about my wife and son, making sure they're okay with this move because I knew it would require a lot of travel, and they were okay with it, so I jumped on.
Is it fair to say, Marshall, that you're the new sort of face figurehead of Glory? I've said on the show before that I feel like it's something they've missed. You know, a Scott Coker, a Dana White, every fight promotion kind of has their face. Vince McMahon in WWE. Are you going to be that guy for them?
Well, look, it's not a role that I'm overly comfortable being, but I definitely am going to take the reins of being the promoter. You'll see me in the media discussing not only the business but fights. You may remember at the UFC, as we were growing our business internationally, you would see me in front of the media, but I would rarely talk about fights, fighters, matchups, things like that. So in this space, as I get my feet under me and learn our fighters and learn from the great matchmakers and talent that we have, or talent scouts that we have at Glory, I'll become more comfortable discussing the fighters because at the end of the day, Ariel, I am a massive fight fan, and I've been watching Glory fights since we acquired them at UFC for Fight Pass, and I'm digging into the archive now. I need to bone up really on sort of the history and who all the fighters are, but you can expect I'll be out there pushing our brand and pushing our sport to even higher levels.
Could I ask you about your departure from the UFC, Marshall? Why did you leave that organization?
Well, I was asked to leave. No two bones about that. It was obviously when the company was acquired by WME and IMG. IMG has one of the world-renowned media groups in terms of distributing media. By the time the acquisition happened, I had taken on more of an exclusive role around our content and media sales, and obviously launching Fight Pass. And as soon as it was announced that IMG was going to be the acquirer, if you're someone who was at my level, I was an EVP and chief content officer, I was making a good salary. If you're coming in as a new acquirer and you have the sort of media chops that IMG had, you would look around as an acquirer and say, okay, what do we have that's a redundancy? What can we replace? And so it wasn't a surprise that I was asked to leave. But that's in essence what happened. I think that in the end, IMG's got a really good backbone for media sales. We had never done a deal with IMG when I was at the UFC to take on our distribution rights because we had a team that was managing it. But ultimately, I was asked to go.
And how did you feel about that? Did you feel betrayed? How did you take it?
I was anticipating that this would happen. I told the team that was working with me, some really committed, loyal people, that because the IMG was a component of this, that we should all be prepared, that we may be asked to leave. So while I wasn't surprised, I think, in the end, no one ever wants to go out that way. I think the one disappointing thing was when the day came and you knew it was coming, it was an awful day for the company. It was terrible. You didn't really get a chance to say goodbye to anybody. You kind of got walked out of the building, and that was a little funky to me. I mean, I get it. I understand it's a company, and that's how it has to work. And we were lucky. There were a lot of people that gathered together after people were let go that day, and we all got together in a nearby bar and hung out. And so I got my chance to say goodbye to people, and I'm really lucky because I've stayed in touch with all of them. So, yeah, no one ever wants to leave that way, but in the end, with hindsight, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I had a chance to move into esports. I met some incredible people working with a Fortune 500 company, have certain lifelong contacts there. You may know, I was commuting from LA to Las Vegas every day for the job. I shouldn't say every day, but I would fly on Monday, return home on Friday. My wife and son were here. So that wasn't ideal. I was living this life for about 5 years of that commuting world. So in the end, it was, I'd probably still be at the UFC if this didn't happen, and I probably would be in a not so healthy marriage and not be a great dad. So with all hindsight, I think this was the best thing that ever happened to me. And now I have an opportunity to help grow another combat sport and help it to move the way I feel like I helped the UFC grow.
Well, have you kept tabs? Have you been able to watch? I mean, like I said, I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt. I mean, you were huge in launching the UK market. Fight Pass, you were a massive part of their success over the past decade. I mean, the reason that company was sold for around $4 billion is thanks to people like you. Have you been able to watch, or I mean, is it just too fresh? Or are you not ready for that?
No, I always watch. I became a real fan, and I have a lot to be thankful for at the UFC. I saw the world. We not only ran the UK business from London, where I was living, but we did every event from Abu Dhabi all the way to Australia, into Ireland. And so I was really lucky to be able to be at sort of the tip of the spear as we were growing the business internationally. I do know some of my friends from the UFC who were caught up in the same thing that I was caught up in, who don't watch anymore, who sort of just said, you know what, it hurts too much to watch. But that was never me. I think I watched the first fight back after I left. I've always been a fan. Again, I've always loved the athletes, and I have a lot of really good friends at the company, and I root for the company. I honestly do. I think that there are amazing things that are still left for the company to do. I think the fighters there are incredible. And I think what the UFC was able to do shows that there's a real interest in combat sports, and I have no doubt that Glory is going to take its part of the stage when it comes to combat and putting on exciting fights.
So could you tell, for the fans that don't know, TV is always most important, right? Distribution is most important. What is the current state of the Glory distribution deals? And specifically, I know it's an international brand, but we're a North American show, so to speak. Like, how do you feel about the state of them? And could you tell us, like, where could people, because I always feel like that's a problem with Glory, like it's sometimes on ESPN2 and ESPN3 and Fight Pass. Can you lay it out? How do people watch Glory, and how do you feel about their current contracts?
Yeah, so the way to watch in North America, really the U.S., for the Glory number series, it's a unique structure the way these events are run. They have a preliminary card, which gets some exposure on a digital platform called Pluto. But when it comes to sort of the meat of the card, you've got the Glory Super Fight Series, which in UFC or parlance would be sort of the prelims, and then you have the main card. But you have the Super Fight Series. That was the deal we did at Fight Pass when I was there. So all around the globe, if you want to watch the Super Fight Series, and we have an event in Chicago coming up on February 16, you'll be able to watch the lightweight championship there, our lightweight belt fight going on there. So that's Fight Pass. Then you have the numbered event, which are more, that sounds like really the main card. Now that deal is currently with ESPN. What makes it a little funky, and I know why you raised the comment, is ESPN3, which is the digital version of ESPN, will have all of the matches live, all the numbered matches, and then they will replay the matches on ESPN2. Now, there are times that ESPN2 will take the matches live. We're going to try to get some consistency there so that we can better serve our fans so they know where to watch it. And as far as the characterization or how I character the deals, I think we have work to do on some of the deals. I'm really, really committed and understand that 10 years or 11 years ago when I was at the UFC, the space of media was totally different. It was all about television, whether it was pay or free TV, depending on the market. And that's still a huge driver. It still drives a lot of viewership, but we have to be really smart as a company to make sure we're preserving content for the platforms like Amazon and Facebook and Twitch, which you mentioned the deal we did for the Overwatch League. I've built some really good relationships in the last year with a lot of these digital platforms. I think there's a role for them to play. But I think the team led by John Franklin and Scott Rudman, one of the board members, I think they've done a really good job with our distribution. We're in a lot of countries, but we need to, as they would say in the gaming space, level up some of our deals and level up some of the promotion. So that's what we're going to be focused on. But we're lucky that we've got some good distribution partners and the content is available.
I know I'm putting you on the spot here because you're new to the job. But you have thought about it because you as you said, you helped strike the deal with Fight Pass. Why do you think that so many people have tried to launch kickboxing and sustain it as, a popular combat sport here in America, and all have failed? Now, Glory has had moments, and, they're still around, and that's great. But why do you think that kickboxing has never caught on like MMA and, of course, like boxing?
Well, I think one of the things is at least to a North American guy, a guy from the U.S., kickboxing has this connotation around it, a perception that people have around the sport. And I think sometimes, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit, that it seems like there's a bit of point fighting that's going on, that it almost has an Olympic quality to it. And I think that is sort of a hangover of some of the fights from back in the day. I think if people take a chance to watch the fights that are happening now, this is really, if you will, this is comprised of various stand-up arts. So you've got Muay Thai to traditional kickboxing to karate. Any martial art where there's a stand-up component is a genre of fighting that's welcomed at Glory. So we like to call ourselves a stand-up combat league. Now, the phrase stand-up has taken on a certain meaning with the growth of MMA. You'll hear people describe an MMA fight as a stand-up war, or even there are times when you have a fight, and I've seen them where you have a guy who's got superior stand-up skills, but he's facing the wrestler, and the wrestler gets him down, and you hear the crowd start to boo because they know the drama is going to occur if these guys can just stand up and let the stand-up guy get to him. So what we are is we are stand-up combat. So if you're an MMA fan and you like it when the fighters are up banging and standing up, that's basically what you have with Glory. You have knees, you have flying knees. You don't have all the clinching that takes place in MMA. There are opportunities to clinch that have to come with a very swift strike you can't continue to hold. So it just makes for nonstop stand-up combat action. And so I think when you think about maybe what the perception of kickboxing is, I think we need to work on getting people to change their perception of what, quote, kickboxing is, and have them understand that this is really just stand-up fighting. And what you'll learn is when you see the fighters who are competing at this level, that there isn't another fighter in any genre of sport, whether it's MMA or in boxing, who can step in against the world's best kickboxers who are competing in Glory and expect to compete well. There is an art and a style in this fighting which you'll see the sweet science right in front of your face if you watch these guys compete.
Just curious, I think that there are some similarities between the world you just left, esports, and combat sports, MMA, niche sports, growing exponentially. And I'm just wondering how difficult it was to leave after you were there for essentially a year. And someone's asking me this. I wanted to ask you. I know you were vital in that last minute deal with Twitch and Overwatch. I do believe another former executive from the UFC, Jamie Pollock, was instrumental in striking that deal. Why did it take so long? Why did it get to like the last 24, 48 hours to get that deal done?
Well, it was interesting. There was so much demand around Overwatch League, which, just for the audience that doesn't know, this is basically a first-person shooter game that was produced by Blizzard. And the company, we developed a league around the game, which was city-based leagues. You have a team from New York, a team from Boston, a couple teams from LA. You have Shanghai and Seoul. So it's a true global city-based league. And there was a lot of interest. What I learned when I got into esports initially was that the ecosystem was very messy. It was really hard to differentiate between different esport or competitive matches going on. You couldn't tell what was premier and what wasn't premier. And so in the development of Overwatch League, which had germinated before I got to the company, but I was there as part of the follow-through to the sales, there were so many, whether they were sponsors or platforms looking for the content, who were dying for a product like this. We literally were weighing up a lot of options before we launched. We had our own option, which was MLG has this really great video platform that was being built, and Twitch is the incumbent. They're the group to go to. They're like the old free-to-air television network back in the day. And what ultimately resulted was the community of Overwatch fans who watched Overwatch were accustomed to watching it on Twitch. And as that deal started to come together, it started to make more and more sense that Twitch was the right partner for us. And while we'd have the content on our platform, by also making it available on the Twitch platform, was going to make sure the community could access it, because it was, to your comment, which started this, there are so many similarities in the two. I remember UFC was no one in the early days really understood it. There was this perception of brutality, of who the athletes were. The media companies didn't know how to deal with it. Like, should I put this on television? Is this not ready for television? Esports has the same thing at a different level. The athletes or the players themselves misunderstood. People think they're one way when it turns out they are a committed, hardworking group, much like what the Ultimate Fighter did for MMA fighters. There's a young male audience that follows esports. Obviously, there's a young male audience that follows combat. The audience is rabid. They're very niche, but they're hardcore and they're loyal. So how do you deliver to them? How do you stay authentic to them and then start expanding out to other fan bases? So a lot of similarities. I got recruited. I was actually being recruited to Activision Blizzard while I was at UFC before the hammer dropped. And so I had been speaking with them for a little bit, and they saw the similarities with the two sports. So coming back now into combat and with Glory, there are a lot of learnings from UFC and a ton of learnings from esports that I feel like I can bring to help us.
Wow, it's fascinating. I am fascinated by esports. I have no knowledge of it at all, but it's just amazing to watch it grow. Last thing for you, Marshall, I appreciate this very much. Just curious, when this news came out, did you happen to hear from either Lorenzo Fertitta or Dana White?
I did not. I did reach out to Dana. Dana's still a good friend of mine. I let him know about the news. I let some of the other executives know about the news. Everyone was really congratulatory. I was really, by the way, blown away by the response, whether it was on my Twitter or on Facebook. I had so many people reaching out to me to congratulate me and tell me how this is something that I deserve. And I was so humbled by it all. I really, for anyone that reached out to me, thank you. And if I didn't thank you personally, I know one day I will. But I did hear from a lot of the people who are still at UFC, and that makes me feel good. That makes me understand that, the reason I left had nothing to do with me as much as it had to do with just a moment in time in the business. And I've always had that confidence anyway, but it's nice to be reaffirmed that was the situation.
Very well deserved. Congratulations. Very happy for you, Marshall. I won't lie, I'm now going to watch Glory a little closer now, because big fan of yours and want to see what you're going to do with them. I have no doubt it's going to be great over there. So great move on their part. I'm really curious to see how this all plays out. And welcome back to combat sports. We knew that you wouldn't leave us for good. It's good to have you back. It's not MMA, but it's close enough. I wish you nothing but the best over there with Glory.
All right. Thanks, Ariel. I've always been a big fan, and I will keep listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. There he is, the brand new CEO of Glory Kickboxing, Marshall Zelaznik, a familiar name, face, voice to MMA fans. He has been on the program before. Wish him and Glory nothing but the best. I think it's a great move for them. All right, let's move along. Some great news was finalized last week. We knew about it for quite some time, but they made it official. Ally Quinta is coming back. He's keeping up the tradition of fighting every April. He's fighting in Brooklyn, April 7th. And in fact, of all the great fighters from New York, he's finally getting his New York fight. Most of them by now have had their New York fight. He's finally getting it April 7th in Brooklyn against Paul Felder. UFC 223. It's so exciting to have him back. Let's go to the Skype machine once again and say hello to our old friend, Raging Al. There he is, Ally Quinta. So happy to see you, Al. How are you?
Doing good, Ariel. How's everything?
Congratulations. Can I say that? Welcome back. What do I say?
Round 4.
I don't know. What do you say? You tell me what you say. I don't know what you say.
Welcome back, Al. Congratulations.
Thank
There's a lot to discuss here. But let's talk about